Now this is a time that the newer generations will know nothing about, but I'm going to share it with you. The baby boomers know this awful well. Some of them went through it, and a lot of them watch this channel, so I know they remember it. This is a time of the baby boomers, our fathers, and our grandfathers. This is a time of back before the modern conveniences of a big schoolhouse in these days. Old times were your brothers and sisters was probably in the same building and class that you was. And all your friends, it was according to the size of the community that you come from. And oh, I can remember these times that you didn't think school would ever end. You just didn't think it would ever end. In little old places like this, the one-room schoolhouse. Now most of these little one-room schoolhouse comes in rural areas mostly, especially in these mountains, but all across the country, in the rural areas of America, a little one-room schoolhouse. And it was according to the community you was from. Most of them was just rural areas, farm country, across America. And people were raised out on these farms. And this is their life. These little families. And in these mountains, it was no different. No different. It was a hard life, but it was a simple life, simple times. And you growed up in these little families in these rural areas. And family was everything. And you usually had a bunch of brothers and sisters. And you raised up in these families that family was everything. And you were taught from a young age. You learned from your parents and your elders. And they taught you all about life. At a young age, you sit and listen to your grandmother, your grandfather, tell you about life, what you need to know, the wisdom, and way things was. These were the most experienced and wisest people of the times. And they taught you all kinds of stuff. Taught you how to cook, how to live, how to survive, how to hunt, just to learning at a young age to be a grown-up and be responsible. And they taught you the Bible. All to do with the Bible. Taught you who Jesus was and all the little stories. And you learned to pray as a family from your elders and who God was and to be thankful. And a lot of people in these mountains didn't live on farms. They worked in the coal mines. Lived in mining camps. This was a really hard life, but this is the way it was in these mountains. And they lived in little mining camp houses like this, growed up hard, and just barely scraped by in them days. And the little old schoolhouses, the one-room schoolhouses around these mining camps were usually just within sight of the mining tipple on the mining property. But they had a school. And you remember back when you was young, you wasn't too far from the local school. You'd always walk to school with your friends. And out in the farms the same way. You'd walk to school in the mornings, any time of season, coming and going. And these old schoolhouses, back then, they didn't have no indoor plumbing. Usually the kids took turns carrying water in for everybody to drink during the day. And they didn't have no bathrooms either. Had a little outhouse out back. The girls and the boys. If they're lucky, they had one for the girls, one for the boys. And these things didn't have no electricity, and they didn't have no heat but an old coal stove or a wood stove. And the kids would take turns building fires in the morning before school. And some of the schools just had a handful of kids. It just depended on the neighborhood or the community that you lived and raised in. But I can remember back in them days that in the mornings you'd say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every morning with your hand over your heart, and we'd say a verse out of the Bible, and we'd say a prayer before we started class every morning. And we'd sing songs, usually starting out. Sing a song or two before we really got into your classes. And some of these little communities even had their pets in the school. These are just old pictures of the one-room schoolhouse. How things was back in them days. Some of you can remember these. Some of them were bigger communities than others and had a bigger school, more people. But you all learned reading, writing, and arithmetic. And you had recess. That seemed like that was a favorite part of the day for me. You'd get out and just run, have a good time. Play games with your friends. Seemed like that went by quicker than anything in school. And at lunch, usually pretty day, they'd have lunch outside. Whatever your mom packed you from home, I remember I'd give some of my stuff to people that didn't have nothing. And on a bad and weather day, you'd usually just sit at your desk and eat. Have your lunch. Now, I can remember always hating to going up before the class on a board and working a problem. You was always so nervous you couldn't even think. Even if you know the answer, you couldn't think of it. And I can remember in grade school, first book you seemed like you learned to read was Fun with Dick and Jane, just old books of the old days. And got up in front of class trying to memorize something. Like you said, you're so embarrassed or afraid you're going to do something wrong, even if you know what you're talking about, you're just so embarrassed. But me, I didn't think this school was ever going to end. Like this little boy here. When can I get out of this crap? But school got over quick. You done this day after day during the season. Run wide open to home. And you just hope that you didn't have a lot of homework. Really hated that. plus doing all your chores too. And they would excuse people from school in the fall of the season when the crops come in, because they know they had to help the family get all the crops in. This happened in a lot of places. And in the summer, some places out in these rural areas, a mobile library would come around and lend you out books to read so you could still be learning. But these schools, they come in all different shapes and sizes back in them days. But this is a thing of the past. But a lot of people started out this way. And a lot of them went on to college too and become successful people. And some schools, according on the community, was bigger than others. But these are a thing of the past. There's still remnants of them around this country. Some are gone, most are gone, but some are still standing. Just nature's taking them over. Just off the main progress of these roads, just being forgotten. Times of our past. Just being forgotten and going back to nature. Not many of them around, but they are a few. This is one in Jefferson County, Tennessee. This one is in Sevierville County, Tennessee, around Henry's Crossroad in Kodak. They're trying to save some of them. And this was one, is a famous one. This is one in Boyd's Creek, Sevierville County, Tennessee. But these things are a thing of the past. But they need to be remembered. History needs to be remembered of what our people went through. Not to be forgotten, always be remembered. So I hope you enjoy these little stories of our history and our past of these mountains. So I want to thank you for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.